After this, the heart of every sensitive person shudders at the concept of accountability, and it is as if he sees the day of judgment before his very eyes. He sees that the earth and the heavens are burdened with it in the very manner a pregnant lady carries the burden of her child, about which it cannot be said when it shall be delivered. The Quran says, يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ السَّاعَةِ أَيَّانَ مُرْسَاهَا قُلْ إِنَّمَا عِلْمُهَا عِنْدَ رَبِّي لَا يُجَلِّيهَا لِوَقْتِهَا إِلَّا هُوَ ثَقُلَتْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ لَا تَأْتِيكُمْ إِلَّا بَغْتَةً. They ask you about the hour of doom. When will it come? Tell them, only my Lord has knowledge of it. None but He shall reveal it when its appointed time comes. Both the heavens and the earth are under its burden. It will suddenly overtake you. Surah number 7, verse 187. Consequently, a person proclaims to God, "You have not made this world without a purpose. It is against your grand wisdom and knowledge to do something without a purpose. I know that this world is going to end on a day of judgment, where people who thought that this world is a place of amusement for its creator will be punished. I seek refuge with you from such a fate." Thus the words of the Quran are, إِنَّ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَاخْتِلَافِ اللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ لَآيَاتٍ لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ الَّذِينَ يَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهَ قِيَامًا وَقُعُودًا وَعَلَى جُنُوبِهِمْ وَيَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ رَبَّنَا مَا خَلَقْتَ هَذَا بَاطِلًا سُبْحَانَكَ فَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. In the creation of the heaven and the earth, and in the alternation of night and day, there are many signs for men of understanding. Those who remember God while standing, sitting, and lying down, and reflect on the creation of the heavens and the earth. Their prayer is, "Lord, you have not created this without a purpose. Glory be to you, for you do not do anything in vain. Save us from the punishment of the fire." The fourth thing is the attributes of God, the effects of which are evident in every speck of this universe. The attributes of providence and mercy in particular need one's attention. After witnessing the extraordinary arrangement made by the Lord of this world to nurture and nourish man, how can a person of intellect think that his Lord would leave him unaccountable, and how can it be expected from the merciful and gracious God to not punish people who have made this world a place of oppression and injustice? For this very reason, the Quran has pointed out at a number of places that the day of judgment is the consequence of God's providence and mercy, power and wisdom. After professing belief in God, no one can deny it. In Surah An'am it is said, كَتَبَ عَلَى نَفْسِهِ الرَّحْمَةِ لَيَجْمَعَنَّكُمْ إِلَى يَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ. He has made mercy mandatory on Himself. He will definitely gather you to take you to the day of judgment, about which there is no doubt. Surah number 6, verse 12. In Surah Naba it is said, أَلَمْ نَجْعَلِ الْأَرْضَ مِهَادًا وَالْجِبَالَ أَوْتَادًا وَخَلَقْنَاكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا وَجَعَلْنَا نَوْمَكُمْ سُبَاتًا وَجَعَلْنَا اللَّيْلَ لِبَاسًا وَجَعَلْنَا النَّهَارَ مَعَاشًا وَبَنَيْنَا فَوْقَكُمْ سَبْعًا شِدَادًا وَجَعَلْنَا سِرَاجًا وَهَّاجًا وَأَنزَلْنَا مِنَ الْمُعْصِرَاتِ مَاءً ثَجَّاجًا لِنُخْرِجَ بِهِ حَبًّا وَنَبَاتًا وَجَنَّاتٍ أَلْفَافًا إِنَّ يَوْمَ الْفَصْلِ كَانَ مِيقَاتًا. They should behold, have we not made the earth a cradle, and made the mountain its pegs, and not created you in pairs, and not made your sleep a means of comfort for you, and not made the night a clothing for you, and the day a time to earn livelihood, and not built above you 7 sturdy skies, and not placed in them a glowing lamp, the sun, and not sent down abundant water from dripping clouds, that we may bring forth grain and vegetation, and gardens of luxurious growth. All this clearly testifies that indeed the day of judgment has an appointed time. Surah number 78, verses 6 to 17. Similarly, in Surah Qaf, it is said, أَفَلَمْ يَنْظُرُوا إِلَى السَّمَاءِ فَوْقَهُمْ كَيْفَ بَنَيْنَاهَا وَزَيَّنَّاهَا وَمَا لَهَا مِنْ فُرُوجٍ وَالْأَرْضَ مَدَدْنَاهَا وَأَلْقَيْنَا فِيهَا رَوَاسِيَ وَأَنبَتْنَا فِيهَا مِنْ كُلِّ زَوْجٍ بَهِيجٍ تَبْصِرَةً وَذِكْرَى لِكُلِّ عَبْدٍ مُنِيبٍ وَنَزَّلْنَا مِنَ السَّمَاءِ مَاءً مُبَارَكًا فَأَنبَتْنَا بِهِ جَنَّاتٍ وَحَبَّ الْحَصِيدِ وَالنَّخْلَ بَاسِقَاتٍ لَهَا طَلْعٌ نَضِيدٌ رِزْقًا لِلْعِبَادِ وَأَحْيَيْنَا بِهِ بَلْدَةً مَيْتًا كَذَلِكَ الْخُرُوجُ. Then have they never observed the sky above them, how we have fashioned and adorned it, and not observed that it is flawless? And we have spread the earth and set upon it mountains, and brought forth in it all kinds of beautiful plants, as an insight and reminder for every person who turns towards the truth. And we have sent down blessed water from the skies, with which we thence brought forth gardens in the harvest grain, and tall palm trees stacked with clusters of dates, as a means of sustenance for men, and from it we enlivened a dead piece of land. Such shall you rise from the earth. Surah number 50, verses 6 to 11. Imam Amin Ahsan Islahi, while explaining these verses, writes, here the Almighty has directed the attention of the rejectors of the Day of Judgment towards the obvious signs of His power, providence, and wisdom, which can be observed all around man. These signs are enough to create insight and strike a reminder in a person who has a heart which has the ability to turn towards the truth. First, the Almighty has directed man's attention to His great power and wisdom. Have they not seen the sky above them, how it has been raised high and decked with stars? It is a miracle of God's power and wisdom that the immeasurable sky is free from the slightest of flaws. The implication is that how is it impossible for someone whose immense power and wisdom they see above them to create them again? After this, besides His power and wisdom, the Almighty has directed man's attention to the tremendous system of providence and sustenance found around him. He is asked to observe how the Almighty has spread out the earth beneath their feet, and to maintain its balance, how He has nailed mountains into its expanse, and how great a variety of fodder has He caused to grow from the earth. These plants which provide man with sustenance are also a means of satisfying his aesthetic taste. The implication is that can it be difficult for someone to recreate mankind from dust, whose great signs of power, wisdom, and providence they are witnessing all around them? Will the Almighty, who has made elaborate arrangements for their sustenance, leave them to eat, drink, and be merry, and never ask them of these blessings? Amin Ahsan Islahi, Tadabbur Quran, Volume 7, page 538. The fifth thing is the manifestation of God's judgment in this very world. It took place through prophets who were elevated to the status of messengers. The Almighty blessed them with extraordinary miracles, helped them through Gabriel, and before the actual day of judgment set up through these messengers miniature days of judgment on this earth. The objective was to prove the existence of God and the hereafter before the people in the very manner scientific facts are proven through empirical evidence in a laboratory. After this, obviously, no one is left with an excuse before the Almighty to not accept the truth. The methodology adopted for presenting this empirical evidence was that these messengers communicated the truth to their people and then declared that they will set up a court of justice for their people on behalf of the Almighty. The foretold reward and punishment on the basis of one's faith and deeds will take place for their people in this very world. Just as physical laws are unalterable and manifest come what may, in the same manner this moral law of God shall manifest itself before them once they are left with no excuse to deny the truth. Thus those among the people of these messengers who accept their calls shall attain salvation both in this world and in the next, and shall be dominant on their adversaries. And those who reject these calls shall be humiliated and will receive divine punishment. Whenever this prediction was made, and about whichever people it was made in the most impossible and unbelievable of circumstances. However, it is an amazing historical reality that it came true whenever it was made, and came true in such a manner that people in fact witnessed God administering justice. And the heaven and the earth were filled with His majesty and grandeur. The Quranic words used are لِأَلَّا يَكُونَ لِلنَّاسِ عَلَى اللَّهِ حُجَّةٌ بَعْدَ الرُّسُلِ, or so that mankind, after the coming of these messengers, is left with no excuse against the Almighty. Surah number 4, verse 165. Then, as a general principle, it was stated, وَلِكُلِّ أُمَّةٍ رَسُولٌ فَإِذَا جَاءَ رَسُولُهُمْ قُضِيَ بَيْنَهُمْ بِالْقِسْطِ وَهُمْ لَا يُظْلَمُونَ. And for each community there is a messenger. Then when their messenger comes, their fate is decided with justice and they are not wronged. Surah number 10, verse 47. It is evident from the Quran that the first instance of this worldly judgment took place with the people of Noah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Noah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had warned them that if they do not give up polytheism and don't worship God only, they will soon be confronted with a punishment which would wipe them out from the face of this earth. His people responded by saying that it is because of this very stance of his that they think that he has gone far astray. They said that Noah had insulted their forefathers, and now he even has the audacity to warn them of divine punishment. They expressed that his followers were from the lower cadres of the society who were blindly following him. Noah's rejoinder was that it was their misfortune if they were considering him to have gone astray. He continued that he had come to them as a messenger of God, and whatever he is informing them of, he is informing them on the authority of God without any slightest of alteration. It is the message of God that he is delivering to them, and he is doing so as a great well-wisher of them. If he is proclaiming to them this message in spite of their stubbornness, indifference, derision, and animosity, then it is only because he is fearful and sad that the Almighty might seize them for their misconduct. The Quran says that Noah sallallahu alaihi wasallam continued to urge and exhort them to the truth for almost 950 years. However, in spite of this prolonged effort, when his people rejected him and were not ready to reform themselves, the Almighty directed him to make a boat. This was in fact an ultimatum to the people that as soon as the boat is built, the respite they have been given would end. Consequently, when the boat had been built and all the believers had embarked on it, a tumultuous storm ensued. The earth was directed to expel all its water on the surface, and the sky was directed to rain down all its water. The water level rose and stopped at the appointed mark, and all of his people were drowned in it. Even Noah's son, Canaan, drowned because of his arrogance. The whole sight was serving a great warning to onlookers. Winds were blowing all around. Rain was thumping down. Waves as towering as the mountains were rising up. Noah's boat was battling with these gigantic waves when suddenly Noah saw his son standing in front of him, overwhelmed with awe and wonder. Paternal love stirred at his sight, and he called out to him that there is still a chance to board the boat and leave the rejectors. However, even this dreadful scenario was not enough for him to give up his stubbornness. He replied that he would seek refuge in some mountain. Noah sallallahu alaihi wasallam warned, this is not mere water that he is facing. It is the wrath of God, and no one except God can save him from it. While this conversation was going on, a huge wave suddenly came and swept away his son. All other rejectors of Noah also met the same fate. This was the equitable judgment of the court of God. Only the believers were shielded from its punishment. This was the first miniature day of judgment that took place to leave people with no excuse to deny the hereafter. After this, every nation of the world encountered these miniature days of judgment. The accounts of Ad, the Thamud, the people of Shu'aib, the people of Jonah, besides some other nations which have been mentioned in the Quran, depict this very judgment.